you very much and welcome to our conversation tonight. Our conversation is what is our role in promoting peaceful elections? That is a conversation that we have tonight. And on the panel, we have Mr. Lennox and, of course, our host, Okoth Opondo. We are hopeful that more panelists will join us as we go on. But even then, I think we are prepared. And I can see Francisca is also making an attempt to be part of this great discussion tonight. Remember, we are heading towards the elections, and things are getting so intense and so tense up. So we hope that we are able to deliver free and fair elections that are peaceful, and that is what Kenya aspires towards. And as Kamdi Voices, we are really happy to be part of this journey, and we hope to play a very key role in ensuring that that is realized. And so, Mr. Lennox, maybe to just start these conversations off, whom do you think are some of the most important stakeholders in ensuring peace in the upcoming elections? Mr. Lennox.
And even maybe before we let Lennox come in, Bwana Mukoko, someone last time told me that they want to know your name.
Oh, my name is Omukoko.
Your name is not the shows that we do.
Jina langu ni Omukoko Okoth. Asante sana Bwana Opondo, and thank you for reminding me that. And so I think we will dive into the conversation straight up. And Mr. Lennox will start us off. Maybe you can tell us some of the most important stakeholders, particularly so in ensuring peace in the upcoming elections. Mr. Lennox, the floor is yours.
Okay, to begin with, I'll start by introducing myself. As introduced, my name is Lennox Kimathi from the University of Nairobi, pursuing law. And definitely, I kick off with the words of John Bast that peace is not an option, but rather something that we must have, something that is mandatory. And thus, with our key point in mind today and focusing on the general election, again, going back to at the back of our minds, we're asking ourselves, as you've asked me, Omukoko, who are the key stakeholders in maintaining peace? And I'll start off by a very, very specific group of people. I'll start off with the civil society, because you do realize that, particularly in Kenya and another very key example, South Africa, the civil society technically funds the political parties in the entire election, throughout the campaigns, the printing of the t-shirts, and everything else that pertains to the elections. The civil society is really, really in play. And I believe that is why you can all confirm with me that Atwoli is around making a lot of noise in the country. Of course, safeguarding some personal rights, but that's the civil society for you. Mm-hmm. And I think another key stakeholder, I would talk about the political parties, because these are the people that are aspiring for these seats. These are the people that we want to elect into power. And we, as their sheep, I'll use that, are technically going to do what it is that they tell us to do. We are going to comply with the orders that they give us. We are going to sing and dance in the streets after a dose of probably 100 bob or so. We are going to be very, very vibrant when it comes to hurling stones. That is the people of Kenya for you. So the political parties also do play a very key role in this election in preserving peace. Another stakeholder, I would mention the media houses. And our case scenario in Kenya today is a very, very good example, because not once or twice have we heard political leaders complain that the media houses are becoming partisan, that their attention, or rather they are promoting one side over the other. And that is one of the factors that will really, really compromise peace in this country, particularly with matters pertaining elections. If you guys can quickly flash back to the Moi era, when there was one chief media house and the chaos that were in the country then, I'm pretty sure that I don't need to explain more about the media houses, since I'm only mentioning now. I think another key stakeholder is definitely the commission, because these are the people that we have entrusted with the role of ensuring that this election is free, fair, and hard faithful, because we as citizens will come out to vote. But having been on the ground, some leaders will tell you that okay, of course, when they are banging the drum and with their chest out that elections, that votes are not cast, votes are counted, and that technically should ignite something in the back of your mind, that this is a politician who is blatantly, clearly telling the people that it's okay. You go out there, vote for me or don't vote for me. At the end of the day, I'll be here ruling you. So the commission is also a very key stakeholder, because if we want free and fair elections, then everybody must play their role. And being the people that are in the core of these, they definitely have a very, very huge role to play. Just to add but a few, I think I will include the investors, because you know that this country is a country that, particularly given our strategic positioning, is very, very crucial in the East African trade. And I'll go to the commissions now, and largely African Union, East Africa, and the trade between this trading bloc, COMESA. There's the COMESA, and there is EAC. Those are the trading blocks that we are in as Kenyans. So largely the investors are also in play as very, very key stakeholders, and some NGOs, because we love election observers, I believe, who are supposed to. You can cut me short if you feel that I am running the clock. But
yeah, well, I think I can give you a few more seconds, and then you can just maybe wind up maybe one or more stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Another stakeholder, I believe I have mentioned the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, because with a key focus on private military corporations, you realize that these are the people who are supplying weapons. These are the people who have the military equipment, legalized military equipment for that matter. And if chaos were to erupt today in this country, weirdly, you will find a Mr. Okoth Opondo somewhere with a gun that you don't know where it came from. You'll find Francisca Majala with probably a grenade or a couple of the same. So private military corporations also do play a key role in ensuring that these weapons don't go to the wrong hands. I also do believe that our police are also key stakeholders, and now that I can see you're pinching to stop me, the people are also very, very key stakeholders, because you can take the donkey to the river, but you cannot force it to drink the water, as usual. So we as the people should have a stand. I will take your money, but I'll vote for the right leader. You'll tell me to go out there and hurl stones, but I live in a glass house, so I'll not do that. So I do believe that stakeholders.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Lennox, for that very detailed list of stakeholders. And I think I'll invite Francisca to come in, and not to say the same list, but Francisca, who do you think are the three most important stakeholders, according to you, of the many that Lennox has mentioned, among them the civil society, the media, political parties, the IEBC, investors, the trading blocs that Kenya is part of, observers, and other NGOs. So according to you, Francisca, who do you think are the three most important stakeholders? Francisca.
First I'll say the commission, the IEBC, because we have entrusted them with the role of conducting the election, displaying and releasing the results, like everything that entails the election. We've entrusted them with everything. So if there's a mishap in the commission, then it might cause some commotion which will disrupt the peace that is there. Secondly, I think it's also the voters, because we are the ones to decide in case of a situation where you're not content with the results that have come after the election. We're the ones to decide we'll start fighting or anything, because we are not pleased with the kind of results that have been displayed. So as the voters, we also play a key role as the stakeholders in ensuring peace in this coming election. And I'll also say the contestants, the politicians who are vying for various seats, because they also play a key role, because in one way or another they can decide to say, guys, the results have come out and this is the outcome, let us accept and move on to build our country. Or they come out and say, let us fight, they've stolen our votes, let's do this and that. So also the contestants, the politicians are key in this election in ensuring peace. And lastly, I'll say the media, social media, and also the mainstream media, because whatever they air out is what us at home see. And if we see something insightful, we see something that is of hate speech, then we'll tend to affect us who are watching, and it might cause violence in one way or another. I think Lennox exhausted most of them, all of them, but that is what I had.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for emphasizing the primacy of these three key stakeholders. And I think you mentioned the IEBC, which is a very important organ in this electoral process and in ensuring peace before, during, and after elections. You mentioned the people whom I believe ultimately hold the power and hold the decisions, whether to make their country or break it, and the politicians. And I want us to focus on these three before we come to our role as young people. Mr. Lennox, do you believe the IEBC, as it is constituted today and as it's carrying out its plan, is a body that we can entrust with our elections? And do you believe that these elections will actually be free and fair based on what you think of the IEBC?
Okay, to start off, I do believe that this is a commission that has serviced us in the recent past. That is going back to the 2017 general election.
Yeah.
And that is an election that was conducted. We went to court, and for one reason or the other, the court pinpointed some discrepancies in the election process, and they did away with the election results. I remember when the election results were nullified and we had to go for a rerun. I do believe that from that point, when the court did away with the 2017 general election, that entire body, the commission, because the court did not just, the court critically analyzed the evidence that was brought to court, and they did realize that in this and this certain area, there were discrepancies. I'm not trying to blame the entire commission. We already know of a few who have dropped out. But for purposes of sanity, I do believe that it was only fair and only just that we did away with the entire commission. And I know that it might be hard for another entire team to take over the commission, but you find, because we do have the CAS and the other supporting staff, there might have not been any issue with that part of the commission, but the chief part of the commission, that is the head, the chairman, Wafula Chebukati, and the whole team now. We have some changes, including Abdi and some Mohammed somewhere, which I do believe is very okay. At least we have some new faces. However, the driver, whoever is in the driving seat, is the same man that was there 5 years ago, which technically, yes.
Yes, Mr. Lennox, now that you mentioned that, just a quick follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to hold the view that to some extent the IEBC is compromised, and that to guarantee that it will actually hold free and fair elections, then we needed some sort of overhaul, because it already carried an election that was disputed in court and found to have a lot of malpractices that led to the annihilation of the presidential results. So, bearing that in mind, are you prepared to accept the results?
Well, personally, I am prepared because I don't have anything personal against Wafula Chebukati. However, I am a firm believer that the first step towards having peaceful elections is ensuring that there's public confidence in the manner in which the election is carried out. So starting from the election officials, I'll go to as low as the position of polling clerk.
Okay, I think maybe I'll just drop it there, because I think we might come to that much later. And I'll give Francisca to also make a point on this. Francisca, you say that one of the most important stakeholders are the people. And based on your interactions with the people around, I'm sure you've been on the ground every once in a while and you have listened to people talking. Do you believe that people are prepared for a free and fair elections, and that they're prepared to carry their responsibilities and ensure that they do not participate in anything that affects our country negatively. Francisca, based on your experiences with people, do you believe that they are prepared for these elections and that they will not allow politicians to use them?
Is the question for me?
Yeah, the question is for you, Francisca.
Oh, sorry. I was hearing shaky. Your voice was shaking because of my. Kindly pardon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the question that I have for you is that do you think that the people are prepared to ensure that these elections are peaceful based on your interactions with the people on the ground? Are you confident in the Kenyan
I'd say,
people?
I'd say that the.
Go ahead.
I have. I'd say that it is uncertain. The prospect of a peaceful election this year is uncertain, but considering what people experienced in 2007, I think people were enlightened a lot, and you can see like in 2013, 2017, voters in most counties cast their ballot for peace, and that is quite inspirational because they learned a hard lesson from 2007. So I can say I will not guarantee like that people are ready, because that is uncertain basing on what we are seeing now from the both sides of the contestants and everything. But considering the lesson that people have learned from 2007, most people, if not all, are not ready to have a repeat of what happened in 2007. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, thank you very much, Francisca. And as you say, the dark past of Kenyan history is still fresh in public memory, and that may make a few people a little bit cautious. But Lennox, how old were you when we had the 2007 skirmishes?
I believe that is 15 years back, and I am 21 at the moment, so I was 6.
So do you recall anything? Do you think what happened or what transpired then will have any influence on people maybe around your age?
Well, for the young people, I would say that what we do have is the told and untold stories of the 2007 general election. And of course, for people who study the business dynamics of this country, you also have the the great economic recess that happened during that period, definitely because of the war. But for people my age, I do believe that taking that stretch that far is really, really tricky, because we were really not part of the post-election violence at the part. I personally I didn't even know that there was one until I'll say had came of age and realized that this is what happened during that time. But asking me those years back, probably when I was 7, 8, I'm pretty sure that I didn't have any knowledge or any idea about what happened. But it's also a factor to consider in that we are the young people of this era now, and we're the ones who will be easily triggered into getting taking the simple bribes and going out there into the streets and doing that. However, I do believe that having interacted with most of my comrades, I would say we are people of sound mind, and we know how to make decisions that generally don't not only affect us but also affect the nation at large. So I believe that with the campaigns that have been done, IEBC also did a very, very good took a very good step by ensuring that we had a comrades forum that covered all universities all over the country. We had all student leaders in one place, and we were preached to the message of peace. I do believe that was a very good point, because now everybody out there knows that at the end of the day, these people are only safeguarding their interest. And going back to somewhere in 2013 or look at 2017, where we had I will not call them post-election violence per se, because they were not as large, But those small fights that occurred after the election, we do realize that, okay, the situation after the handshake, when these two major antagonists finally came and decided to bury the hatchet, then I can firmly believe that we as young people and people of my age, we know that these people at the end of the day will look at their own self-interest, and we might not be tempted to go that direction. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Lennox, and thank you for acknowledging that when the post-election violence happened, a lot of young people today were actually too young to actually recall what transpired and what happened. But you mentioned also a very important point, that the IEBC has made efforts, and a lot of other organizations, to reach out to young people and speak to them. But Francisca, based on what you have had as a university student, maybe you have been reached out to by these organizations, but do you believe that the people who need this message the most have actually been reached? Because I also understand that a significant section of the Kenyan youth is not in universities. Do you believe that those people have been reached? Yes.
Allow me just to weigh in, even as Francisca tries to put her words together. So I'm so happy that Lennox just recognized, and he has recognized and been very honest that he was very young when it happened in 2007. In 2007, I think I was of an age that I could really see what was happening, and that's why I really want to bring a point into this. I must have been in class 7 or class 6 there when all these things happened. And let me tell you, one reason as to why I'm really worried, especially of those who are in their early 20s right now, and how they are easily used, how they are easily influenced, is because most of them did not really see what happened in Kenya. Most of them have either read these stories or have been told these stories. They do not read. Some of them even think that maybe these are the stories of Mekatilili Wamenza or the stories of Luanda Magero or something. These things happened in our lifetime. It happened when we were alive, when we saw people being evicted from their homes, all because they supported people that we did not like. When we saw people, students actually being denied admission in certain schools, we saw people, maybe even shops and businesses burnt down, and buses along the way stopped, and people were doing thorough checks just to identify who are inside. So to any young person right now who was maybe 5 or 3 or 4 years at that time, majority of them are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Honestly, if they are watching and listening to us right now, they have to agree to the fact that this country has come such a long way. We have such a dark past, and I do say, in as much as yes, we want to regret, but we must commit ourselves that it will never happen again, because we learned our lesson from there. We have people today who do not have parents because someone did not like the results or maybe of the other person. We have people today who do not have their only children. I know, for example, of a mother, a friend of mine, who lost all the children, and she said, she has been praying and even asking God if this is really life or what happened, because it's always the dream of, it is never a dream of any parent at all to bury a child. It's such a bad thing, because of post-election violence, this happens. So for any young person who is listening and watching this, they need to know that we've come such a long way, and that's why we are bringing these topics like this, that what is our role in promoting peaceful election? Because elections will come and go. 15 years ago, Raila was in the race. Ruto was supporting Raila Odinga. Uhuru Kenyatta was at one point with Raila, then he shifted on the other side and went and joined Kibaki. Kalonzo was not with Raila Odinga. Actually, he's the guy who was tulianza kumuita at that point into a katikati. They have again now regrouped. So they keep on telling us, do this, do this. So even as you head to elections and even as you join campaigns, you must always know that your life is more important. You must always know that no human being, no political decision is worth your blood or worth your life. Thank you, Mr. Mokoko.
Okay, Sana, thank you for the input, Mr. Pondo. And I think a lot of people who are hearing us will gain more insights from that, because as you said, a lot of us are very young and maybe cannot recall what precisely happened at the time. And I think it's important that we do. But Francisca, now that we are about to talk about the role of youth, and youths are those who are in universities and those who are not, do you believe that enough effort has been made to ensure that people who are outside, maybe let's say schools and universities, get the same information and the same message of peace. Francisca, do you believe that that has been done? And in the event that it has, or if you think it has not been done, or maybe enough has not been done, what can we do in the remaining few days to ensure that those people are reached?
From what I have seen, I think it has been done. Some time back, I was part of IEBC Youth Coordinating Committee, and they could do these some programs that they are doing in universities. They could go to the communities and work together with the chiefs of the specific areas to mobilize the young people, not only young, but everyone around the community to come, and we could hold talks to these people on peaceful elections, the importance of peace. So I'm not sure if it is something that reached a bigger percentage of people, but the fact that they made effort to do that, it shows that as a country we've come a long way. Like if the electoral body can take time to go out to programs to the communities and the universities, then I can say something has been done. But yeah.
Okay, Asante, Francisca. You broke a little bit towards the end, but your message was clear that the IBC has done a lot, and we laud them for that. And I think it's only fair to acknowledge and give credit where it's due. But then, Mr. Lennox, maybe we can dive into the most important section of this conversation, is what is our role as young people, first, but also as Kenyans, to ensure that these elections are peaceful. And I know it can be as extensive as possible, but I want you to maybe just be as brief as you can to share what you think our role is as young people and as Kenyans to ensure that these elections are as peaceful as they can get. Mr. Lennox.
Okay, that is a very, very specific question. Our role as young people in promoting peaceful elections. First and foremost, I do believe that for these elections to be peaceful, we as the people need change. That is the first point. Technically, every country after 5 years, what the people are looking for, regardless of how good the people in government are, we all are really yearning that change, particularly in with this particular election, because we can all agree that the cost of living at the moment is quite high, and we need at least a ray of hope, I would say. So to begin with, in promoting these peaceful elections, I will start with, first of all, making sure that we, as young people, exercise our right to vote. Because what happens when we don't vote? We start complaining that the leaders that are voted in are actually bad people or leaders that we are not expecting. If you so much advocate for your leader to be voted in, but you don't take that initiative yourself to go out there and vote. So what happens? When somebody just gives you a small incentive to go violent on those slight emotions, we are human beings at the end of the day, and nobody really likes losing, even if it's just one vote or one direction for that matter. Therefore, just that slight incentive will trigger you to violence, because you find that it's okay, you really wanted this leader to be elected in. You as the young people felt that this is the person with the manifesto, this is the person who was our interest at hand, but we did not go out to vote. Then these other people that voted for their favorite candidate went in and did the same. That totally is on you. That is the first role. Go out there, choose your leaders. So make sure that you don't have a reason to an excuse. If you're beaten, if your leader doesn't win, then it's fair and square. At least you made that extra step to go and vote. Secondly, our role is ensuring that we at all time maintain our public interest in mind, because the moment we stick to our own personal interest, or rather be easily driven away or wavered off as young people, then technically violence is going to erupt, because the moment we as young people are incited into violence, then everyone else in the country will be incited to violence, because we are the people with the energy, we are the people with the oomph, we are the people with the power to do this. And the moment young people are out there in the streets, everybody else will be wondering. Everybody else will, in one way or the other, either cow down or tag along, because when it comes to violence, you want to be on everybody wants to be on one side, not the side that is being beaten, but the side that is at least winning the war. For people like Opondo who have been in a few battles, you can confirm. So technically, we as young people, our second chief role, I believe, is maintaining our sanity, always ensuring that we are not misusing drugs, because these are things that can trigger us into violence, and we are being sane in our reasoning, and we are not easily wavered off, because it is true that it is an election. We love a winner and we love a loser. At the end of the day, we have to accept and move on, which is a very, very simple tactic in life, if at all you follow Wood Hartman in The Subtle Art of Not Giving. I'll leave out that part, because technically you have to accept life as it is. The truth is, everybody in this life wants to win. But given this scenario, an election scenario where we have a winner and loser, then we must technically expect that there will be somebody who comes first and somebody who is the first runners up. I'll use that. So I would, with the BBI away now at this juncture, now that the court nullified it, at least we would have said that with the BBI we would have at least a win-win scenario, sort of, where we have prime ministers and all that. But now that we don't have that at the moment, we technically have to go traditional and accept that it's okay. We have a winner and a loser. So whichever side you fall on, it's not the end of life. Life moves on. Another role as young people in promoting peaceful elections is ensuring that we maintain our. Okay, I'm pretty sure I've talked about maintaining our sanity. So that role would technically be ensuring that we, as young people, stick to our agendas or stick to our ideas regardless, because we as young people are leaders. We as young people are people who lead others in one way or the other. We are the people who are used to incite others. Look at most scenarios where war has erupted or battles have erupted. It is mainly the young people who are inciting others, because we are easier to incite rather. If Opondo comes and tells Omukoko, you know what, Kesha, we are donning our tools because of this and this and this. Young people are the ones who have, I will say, that long life mileage that is left to cover, and therefore will have lesser to lose. In quotes, definitely, that is what young people will think. So we have to have our futures in our minds and think about our tomorrow, because we as young people are the people that are going to either determine whether this election goes north or south.
Okay, great. Omukoko, because Lennox mentioned my name, let me
Okay,
just mention
sure.
something here, because it is true.
Yes.
I've been in this political battle before, and one that I can tell you, considering that Francisca also mentioned, I think both Francisca and Lennox mentioned that among the stakeholders that we have in this campaign, in these times, politicians. The politicians must know that it is sometimes you don't really campaign to win. Elections are never sometimes also about winning. Even if you don't win an election, if by any chance during your campaigns or during the whole journey of meeting people and sharing your ideas with people, you change someone's way of thinking or you change someone's life, if through maybe your speeches you made someone register for insurance or rethink about his job or rethink about his family and everything, to me that itself should be a win. And also remember, there is one great man who reminded us that in a moment of conflict or a moment of war, it is never about who is right or who is wrong, but who is left. Yeah, because by the end of the conflict, there are people who must be left behind. Which kind of a society do you want to leave behind? And we have to go to this election very sober, knowing that it is never about something worth dying for, but now I think our country is worth living for. We want to be there tomorrow to see some of these ideas coming into fruition. We want to, personally, I want to see Vision 2030, even if it is real. That's why now we really have to protect our peace of Mukoko, because I would like the children of today really to see, oh, some people years back sat down and decided to design certain cities, decided to think about our transport system and everything. So that means then now we have to participate in this election soberly, If we have to campaign, let's campaign soberly. If you win, fine. If you don't win, fine. And Linux, in the political circles, we don't say losers. We just say your win has been postponed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Opondo, for the wisdom that you have shared. I really appreciate that. Lennox wants to say something really quick before we move to Francisca.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that Opondo can allude to the fact that a win can be postponed, particularly with Baba in mind and this election situation. Are you pretty sure that after this election situation, if Baba loses, he can say that the win has been postponed?
So you see,
let's wait and
the
see.
thing is that when you join a political journey, sometimes it's never about you. So remember what Martin Luther King told us? He was taken to the mountaintop and he saw the promised land just like Moses, that he would never live to see to get the promised land. But as a people, we will get there. So whether Ruto wins or Raila wins, their supporters must know that the country has to move on. We are one nation anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I hope we see some Martin Luther in Kenya, and then we can confidently say that whatever happens, all of us win. But either way, Francisca, I think a lot has been mentioned about the role of young people in these elections. And maybe if you believe there is something that has been left out, then you can add on to the list that was provided by Lennox and the immense wisdom that was provided by Mr. Opondo. Francisca. Okay.
We lost Francisca.
Yeah, seems we lost Francisca, but maybe I'll just go through what both of you have talked about. I think you mentioned a very important point, Lennox, the fact that the first and the most important way to promote peaceful elections is to ensure that we vote. And I think that is the only legal way to support our candidates, to ensure that we cast our ballot and vote for them. And then you also say being mindful of the public interest, being mindful of our country, which I think is also important, because as soon as we're mindful of that and forget about our own passions as individuals, then we can actually serve the better good and serve the noble goal of ensuring that peace is maintained. The other thing you say, which I think is also important, is that we need to be sane. Let us maintain our sanity. Let us think right. And if we can think before we act, then no doubt we will make much better decisions. You also say that we need to accept the results and move on. That at the end of the day, no matter what happens, someone has to come first and someone has to come second. And that someone that might come second may be the candidate that you support or the candidate that you hope wins. And so we have to be prepared as early as now to accept an outcome that maybe does not go along with what you hope will happen. And then the other thing is, let us also think about tomorrow. And I really appreciate that. Let us think about tomorrow. Let us think, in the words of Opondo, that, and maybe he was also quoting somebody else, that it's also not a question of who is right or who is wrong in wars. It's a question of who is left. And that's why it's important that we think about tomorrow. And just to borrow more from Opondo's wisdom is that elections are not always about winning. Elections are also about having an influence and making an impact in whatever way. And I think we can see that. We have seen someone like Wajakoya bringing it out clear that Kenyans are willing to listen to our third voice. Kenyans are willing to listen to people who have something to say. And I think that's a very important lesson. So regardless of whether he becomes president or not, there's something the country has gained. And that is why...
just on the same before maybe this escapes my mind.
Yeah.
Not that I'm defending the politicians. Even as we prepare to accept the election results, the body that is in charge of election must conduct itself in a way that the results can be accepted. Yeah, because it's not just about forcing people the results. They have to assure the public that they can be trusted. They have to assure the people, for example, the way the results will be coming out. Because, it is usually the dream of any person always to come first. So even before I accept that, yes, I was defeated in this, I think the results must be presented. The whole election process must be conducted in a free and fair way.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Opondo. That is certainly right. And I hope that this message can reach the IEBC, because they play a very critical role. If they can present an election that is free, fair, and transparent, then I believe that Kenyans will be much more willing to accept the results. And certainly the politicians as well. If they cast aspersions about the body that is entrusted with this mandate, then they also make it a little bit more problematic. And then I think another thing that I found very useful for people to hear out there is that our country is, and particularly elections, are not worth dying for. They are worth living for. And I really appreciate that, Opondo, because I think it really underscores the main message that we have here today, that we are here to ensure that there is peace. And if there is peace, then all of us can live to see the promise that we have all been looking forward to. And then, as you said, Opondo, let us be sober, and that at the end of the day, Kenya is bigger than all of us. I might just add on that list and say that as young people, we also need to preach peace. And I think Camp Devotion is leading in this, and other groups there that are led by young people can also preach peace. I think that will be helpful. And then just don't be the problem. Sometimes the best you can do is just don't be the inciter, don't be the person who throws the stone, don't be the person who does the wrong thing as a young person out there. And finally, on my side, I'll say, just have your eyes and ears on the ground. You might hear something that you might think problematic, and if that is the case, then make sure that you share that information with the appropriate and relevant authorities so that action can be taken. And be free to show politicians that you are not available for misuse as young people. Thank you. Maybe I'll just take that a little bit further and ask you, Leonard. Kenya is mostly peaceful until elections come. Why is it that we can live together? Luos, Kikuyus, Kambas, Turkanas, Tesos, everyone, we can live together peacefully for a very long period of time, living in love and in brotherhood, and we see harmony in the way we exist with each other. But then the question is, what happens during elections? Why do we become so passionate about elections to the extent that we forget about all the benefits and the gains of peace that we have had for the years that before elections?
Well, I'll dive right in, and I do believe that Kenyans, we do coexist without any other personal differences really affecting us up to the political period. One, because of the kind of politics that is played in Kenya, you do realize that people don't really majorly on how good your manifesto is or what it is that you are promising the people that you will do for them. Apart from this period where we have at least somebody promising 6,000, I believe that is Azimio, and on the other side there's Asla Fund and all that stuff. But largely, even in this election, the politics that is being played is majorly dirty politics. We have people bad-mouthing each other. We have people washing each other out in broad daylight, and that is not the way to go. I believe that we would be in a better position when people don't campaign using their tribal bases. We have Azimio's chief region being the Mount Kenya region as opposed to the Western region, and conversely UDA's stronghold being the Western region, simply because of your manifesto or what it is that you're selling to the people. But what we have in Kenya is tribalistic politics, whereby, like in this scenario, we have most people that are from the Western origin tend to support Baba simply because he's one of their own. He's a man of the soil. And people from Mount Kenya will tend to support, I would go straight to perhaps Rigathi Gachagua, because again, he's a man of the soil. And that is the politics that will be fronted to the people. The moment you have planted seeds of tribalism in the minds of the people, the moment you have planted that seed of this one by virtue of them not being from our clan, our community, our county, then they cease from being part of us. The moment we plant those seeds of drive, those seeds of separation, then after the election results, we will already be triggering the seed that was planted long ago during the campaigns, when we started igniting them that, you know what, now that Francisca is perhaps a Kamba and Omukoko is a Luya or a Luo for that matter, you guys cannot sit at the same table and advance the same political idea. However, I do believe that in this particular election, there's a change, for one, because regardless of the fact that the heads are from different political origin, at least we do have a blend of all cultures and all tribes in most of the in I believe the two major political parties, because with Azimio we have Baba representing the left.
I'll just cut you short there, Lennox, because I want to move to Francisca, and then I will invite Opondo to share something. I'll ask later, Mr. Opondo. But then, Francisca, I asked Lennox this question: why does he think that we can exist very peacefully for 4 years, and then everything becomes less tolerant towards elections, and then maybe during elections and after elections? Why is it that Kenyans, Kambas, Luyas, Luos, Kikuyus, Turkanas, Taitas, Pokomos, all of those people can live so peacefully together until the election period? And Lennox believes it's because of the kind of politics that our politicians are playing. First of all, Francisca, do you agree, or do you believe that there's another reason why we can live so peacefully for 4 years and then during the elections, it all goes down? Francisca.
I agree with Lennox that it's the kind of politics that are played in our country, because you find a leader, they're grouping themselves according to their ethnic backgrounds. A Luya wants all Luyas to support them, a Taita wants all Taitas to support them. So in our minds, we also have the same what do I call it? The same idea at the back of our minds, that as a Taita, I have to support my fellow Taita. And if he's contesting with another person, let's say who is a Kikuyu, and then one of my fellow Taita decides to support the Kikuyu, then we see it as a betrayal, political betrayal. Then we tend to say that they've gone against our ethnic groups and what we believe in, and that is what brings in the violence that we see that comes from the tribal backgrounds and everything.
Okay, Asante, Francisca. I just want to clarify to Adonai. Yeah, Adonai seems to believe that we are making it seem as the fact that Kenya has tribes is problematic, and that we can turn this to advantage. And I do believe that the debaters, honestly, from what I've heard from them, they have nothing wrong with the fact that we have tribes in Kenya. I think the only challenge is that when those tribes become more important than the entire country, and then they're used to divide us and cause the chaos that we have seen before. Mr. Opondo, maybe if you may share with us what you believe to be the origin of this, because it's not all too common. We have seen in the world many people from different tribes living together and not even thinking about it. And a good example is Tanzania, where tribalism has been de-emphasized. I cannot say that it is 100%, but it is certainly much better than it is in Kenya. So, Mr. Opondo, what do you think is the origin of this? And do you think we should be as optimistic as Lennox is, that indeed that is changing so quickly? And what can we do to expedite this? Mr. Opondo.
Wonderful. Sorry, I was just doing some working on some technicalities here. So allow me maybe sound a bit controversial here. I do not think Kenyan people are tribal in terms of how they do how they live, because before elections, I don't care who pays my school fees. I don't even care who is in school, who is my professor, who is my priest in church, who is my pastor, who is my driver. How comes during campaigns, all of a sudden you start asking, okay, Njeri comes from Central Kenya, Opondo comes from Nyanza, Majala comes from Taita Taveta, Omko comes from Kakamega. Why does it now become an issue then? I think it is not about Kenyans, but about the politicians of the day, who know very well that if they do not do it that way, they will not be able to rally people behind them. My biggest worry with this country, the Great Republic of Kenya, is that the problem is not that we are divided into tribes. In fact, we should appreciate that, because with our diversity comes a lot of wealth and richness. What should worry us most is how to reduce the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Because someone told us long time ago that the problem in the world has never been the conflict between Muslims or Christians, or the conflict between whites and blacks, or the conflict between the rich and the poor, but the issue has always been struggle for fairness and justice. I was in Kibra in 2007 when the conflict erupted after the election. Now the what was called the post-election violence. I still wonder to date how just a few kilometers above, on the other side of Kibra is Karen. On this other side is Lavington and Jamhuri and Kilimani and Woodley. How comes people in these other areas are not fighting? If it is truly a tribal war, why can't the Luos in Runda go for the Kikuyus and the Luyas and the Kambas and the Kalenjins in Runda? Why is it that these conflicts only erupt in informal settlement? It is because someone is benefiting from using our state of poverty. And who is this someone? This is the politician who has nothing else to offer apart from hitting us against each other. And I know that the clock is ticking. Kenyans are now changing. Right now, we are capable of talking the way we want here on social media because some people struggle for us to get to this point. Right now, you can see people shouting at politicians. Right now, you can see a Luo supporting Ruto and a Kalenjin supporting Raila confidently, and they are so happy without expecting maybe to be attacked and all that. So, Omkoko, just to answer your question shortly, I think for me, I look at it from a solution point. We, the people on this panel, and so many of the young people who are in campuses today are still in high school, and the generation that will come after us, we owe the future generations one simple thing: to keep fighting for a better society where we look at each other as human beings first. I see you and I see Mkoko, I see Majala, I see Bill, I see Adonai, wherever he's joining us from, before trying to look at who are you? Are you circumcised or not? Are you a lady or not? Are you straight? Are you gay? You know, all these things we look at each other first as human beings before looking at the other things. Because you ever seen moments of crisis in Kenya, Mkoko? For example, when there's a need for blood donation. When you're asking for blood in Kenyatta Hospital, honestly, you don't care whose blood. You don't care the owner of that blood came from which tribe. When you're asking for scholarship, you never care. When you are fundraising, for example, the initiative like Kenyan for Kenyans, when you are coming together, when Kenya is hit by terror, when there's a flood, or for example, when the outbreak of something, COVID came, it taught us a lesson that we are all equal. It didn't choose whites or blacks or Muslims or Christians or Kikuyus or Giriamas. Human beings must learn to coexist, and this nonsense must stop. Thank you, Mkoko.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pondo, for sharing that. And I think I do appreciate the fact that you say that Kenyans are not tribal, and that to a large part, Kenyans exist or coexist peacefully, and that they're willing to work with each other. And what comes out clear is that our biggest problem is politicians, and that the most unfortunate thing is that a few of us fall for the lies that politicians have. And I do believe that that is a challenge indeed. But Mr. Bill, now that politicians have convinced us that the tribe is so important, now that have convinced some of us that indeed it's worth fighting for them to hold power, how do we salvage people who have bought this lie from politicians, that indeed the tribe is more important than the nation, and that we can prioritize the tribe and even fight to ensure that the tribe holds positions of power, rather than ensuring that we vote for the best leadership for all people in this country? So how do we salvage these people who have fallen victim of this lie, Mr. B?
Thank you, Mkoko, for this show. This is the first time I'm taking part in it. I've been just in the audience, getting to listen to the conversation. But today I tried my best to join and engage in this nice engagement. So about tribalism, it's very difficult for now. It's we are working on it. It's not really, we are not there when it comes to handling matters tribalism, because that has been the narrative that most politicians use. Somebody will say, maybe I'm from Western, or my allegiance lies to a certain tribe. So with this, I feel like issues are we are supposed to be issue based when it comes to our campaigns and just public engagement, because most people are more driven into matters tribalism, because you identify with where you come from. So if we are able to shift the narrative to issues of what people are facing, like poverty, matters to do with education, now there'll be a shift in terms of how we're handling things. Like if you tell me you are hungry and you need food, I'll come and address and I'll campaign in terms of what you need. But if we are talking about tribe, we lean to one side more. So it's something that right now I feel like we need civic education to help in that. We need to engage more people in schools and even in our curriculum, because mostly these matters to do with tribalism usually come from let's say like schools, even universities. You'll find people converging in certain groups, identifying with certain tribes or certain communities. So if we're able to address this in terms of even the way people handle each other in schools, in institutions actually, because most institutions you'll find people categorizing themselves or identifying themselves with certain communities. But if you're able to cut this, because we give birth to this narrative in institutions. If we're able to cut this, then things will move swiftly into matters issues.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bill. And I think you make a very fair point that much as we sometimes see this, especially at the political level, we also see it much lower, where, as you said, in some schools, you might find a few people ganging together because they belong to a particular tribe. But I do appreciate the fact that you say that we need to shift the narrative and try to emphasize something else other than tribalism. Someone shared with me that the reason why we have this challenge in Kenya is that traditionally politicians have tended to develop areas that they come from. That has changed with devolution. And as we speak today, all counties get money, not based on who is in the state house or who is wherever, but based on other ways that are more meaningful than maybe just sending money to a particular area. We have also had cases of marginalization previously, and I think that makes people a little bit cautious on who is in power because they feel that might affect them. But that is also changing. And so my question to you, Lennox, do you see a day when, let's say, a Pokomo is a president, when, let's say, a Turkana is a president? How soon is that day, do you believe? With a chance for you to be a prophet.
It's okay. I would give it 20 years with the interest of Billy, assuming that Billy will be running for presidency, or perhaps Francisca for that matter. Okay. Over time, Kenyans are becoming better. Education is really sinking in. I don't know about CBC that much. I have not really had enough time to interact with the curriculum. But I do know that the 844 breed is a breed that is learned, that is prepared for society. And yes, we are focusing more, but just going as back just in the recent past with university politics, we are now focusing more on what this person has to offer, more on the qualities of leadership that this person is bringing forth, as opposed to what tribe they're coming from and all those other nitty-gritties that don't really influence leadership per se. So I do believe that perhaps in the next 20 years, we'll do somebody from another tribe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lennox, for the optimism. Remember, we are talking about this because the conflicts and the wars that we have had have always been along tribal lines, and we do not want to be in a position where this continues. And thank you for all the insights you've shared. And I believe I can say confidently, as Lennox has, that indeed a lot is changing and we are heading in the right direction. But I will invite Mr. Opondo to say what he has to say, and then we can have a final round of just last words on peace in the upcoming election. Maybe just final message. Yes, Opondo.
Yes, I want to respond to Mr. Donai, who is saying, won't you also admit to this, that Kenya is a third world country with majority of our population being poor? How do you link this to politics as a tool out of poverty and quest for justice? So this is exactly what I said in the earlier point. Politics was actually, I believe that was designed to help people get from where they are to somewhere. But again, the state of poverty is also being used by the same politicians to always maintain that influence that they want, because it also depends on who. There are people who are very genuine and they are interested in addressing matters, poverty and other societal injustices. But then there are also others who are happy seeing you where you are, because most politicians are not willing to teach you how to be a fisherman. They're interested in always giving you the fish so that you remain their slave forever. So look at an example here. When there's a problem of fire somewhere, maybe there's a problem of unemployment somewhere. So someone comes and dishes out cash to you, and you are there celebrating. Mukoko or Opondo has done this to us. He comes and gives us 300 shillings every day or every week. You should always be asking yourself, when will a time come that you can be able to earn that 300 shillings by yourself? Because as long as this person gives you that money, they say that it is so difficult to bite a hand that feeds you. If you dare bite it, then definitely it becomes a very big problem. On the issue that you've also asked to Mukoko, and I also believe Mukoko will try to address it, I'm getting interested in this. In these times of campaigns and elections, Bill and I know we've come from one area and we've seen so much. There are what we call the peacepreneurs, and I have to be honest with this. There are people who look at any opportunity to get money from the donor community, to use that money to do anything. I mean, there are organizations that are always almost in everything. Yeah, you see them doing the same. Immediately after election, they just shift now from promoting peace. They're in climate change. From climate change, they drive to this. These are now some of the people that sometimes I do feel are also like big enemies to our own communities, because in as much as people want to preach peace, even as for us here at Kamdi Voices, we're just keen because we're looking at our role. But again, we cannot keep on talking about peace all the time as if there's a war in a country. We're just interested in talking about it for a short time, then we let people go ahead with their lives. So it is true, there are organizations which have commercialized these peace campaigns, and they're not really genuine about what they're talking about. And also see Simon saying also address the importance of tribal structure in the promotion of peace. Yes, Omukoko, I'll also let you come into this, but just to mention this, Kenya is a country, and we have to agree also that before first of all recognizing Kenya as a country, we're a country formed of so many nations, where we have the Kikuyu nation, the Kalenjin nation, the Kamba nation, we have the Luo nation, and all these people had their own structures of governance in their communities. These people had their chiefs, they had their own judiciary system, they knew how to address their challenges. So what we are still struggling is to see how we can make all these things fit into the bigger system that we have. So our tribes, the way they are structured, we can still use them to our advantage because of the kingship, the general structure of leadership that we already have in our communities, communities that have different cultural practices and all the manner of things. So Mukoko, maybe you can take into the issue that Adonai is asking about commercialization of peace campaigns by NGOs.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think if time had allowed, we will allow other panelists to also mention something about this. But I think the biggest challenge we have when we have people who have commercialized the peace campaigns is that they are only interested in ticking boxes. They're only interested in ensuring that, did you have a talk with people? Yes, you did. And that is enough. And I do believe that the way to approach peace, as Opondo has said, is not to threaten the effects of war. Because every time we do that, we make people panic. And when people panic, they prepare for war. I think our goal and our mission is to make peace appealing. And I think that is the most important thing we need to do. It's not to scare people. It's not to make them worried, because once we do that, then we put them in to be psychologically prepared for war, which I do not believe is the right approach that we need to take. So all these people who have commercialized every other thing and use it as an opportunity to make money or whatever else, let us just be reminded as Kenyans that at the end of the day, this country is ours, and if it's to be saved, then it can only be saved by us. And as long as we have that in mind and we are prepared to go every mile to ensure that Kenya is peaceful, then we shouldn't worry not so much about these other people who may want to influence us. But also to mention that on the issue of tribal structures, we still struggle with tribalism. We cannot deny that. Even though the future is optimistic, we have made so many steps. I do think that the best way we can handle this is to ensure that we are trying to be as inclusive as possible. And once we are in offices, whatever office this is, let us make the best effort to ensure that we do not necessarily consider the tribe above other factors that are more significant in maybe giving opportunities to people out there. Let us make sure that there's that balance of inclusion of all people who are part of this land and great country, Kenya, but also ensuring that we do not necessarily prioritize the tribe over all other important factors. But even then, I would like to invite Lennox to briefly make his final remarks before we go to Bill, and then we can sum it up and call it a day. Mr. Lennox.
Yes, thank you very much, Mukoko. This has been a very wonderful space. And I want to say that, in the words of Larry, that every election is determined by the people who show up. So we as citizens should go out there, show up, vote. And as we vote, let us remember that we are not voting against somebody. We are voting for somebody. Don't vote against a certain leader. Vote for your leader of choice. And let's be wise in our voting. Don't vote simply because somebody has handed a bribe to you, or somebody has encouraged you or given you a certain incentive to do the same. Go there and vote with your right and sane mind. Vote for the change that you'd want. Vote for the leader that you'd want. Be wise in the decision that you make. And in a nutshell, I would say that in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, an eye for an eye will only make the whole world go blind. So don't look at somebody else's success and then bask in the shallow and then go ahead and fight them. It's only fair that we accept, like Opondo said, in a battle, whoever what matters is not who wins, but rather who is left. So let's look into the future of this country. Let us look at where we are going as a nation. We cannot, at these trying economic times, risk another great economic crisis. It's only fair that we do have our minds in place and we go ahead and do what is right. As I wind up, I'll only say that do not choose a battle in this election. Go out there and choose wisely, because at the end of the day, what matters is the nudging coin, as described by Larry again in The Pendulum. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lennox, for the immense wisdom that has been shared. And we really appreciate having you on the panel. Mr. Bill, you can maybe say your final remarks. I think you're muted.
Bill, you're on mute. Bill, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry about that. I was saying elections are there for us just to improve our lives, make better options, and not for us to fight. So if we are going to vote, let us vote for leaders that we prefer. But at the end of the day, if they don't get the position, it's not the end of the day. They can play a different role of helping us engage with the leaders that are there. So let us vote peacefully, knowing that at the end of the day, we live together. We'll vote for somebody, and he'll go somewhere. He will be just representing us, but there's the high possibility he won't live amongst us. So the best thing to do is to make sure when we are voting for peace, we are voting for change, and we are not voting with the intention of keeping things at heart. We are voting to make sure that we improve our lives.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Bill. I just want to extend my gratitude to Mr. Adonai, who has been with us throughout. And I think he has joined all the shows and has always been making very useful and important comments and responses to some of the things that the debaters say. And I really appreciate that. I think my final remarks will be, first of all, gratitude to all of you who are able to show up. But I also want to add that at the end of the day, Kenya, as it stands today, the best that can come out of any election is a peaceful country. We can have the leader we want, we can have whoever it is, but the best and the very best that we can have is a country that is united, that is stronger together. I want to remind Kenyans that we need each other. And I think we have a big problem in this country, and that no one can save us as an individual messiah, whoever leader that might be, unless we stand together. We hold whoever is there on account or accountable for their actions, and ensure that we grow together. The future of Kenya is ever so bright, and I believe that if we continue journeying together, then we can go really far. I really appreciate that, and thank you, Mr. Opondo, as well, for providing this platform and for hosting us today. And on that point, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mukoko, and everyone who joined us. Also, just to give us my parting shot, when we are in election times and the campaigns are on, what people are asking for, the women in Kitale, those in Samburu, the women in Kilifi and everywhere, these people just want a meal on the table, just as simple as that. They want security for their children, they want education opportunities, they want jobs for the children, they want to make sure that they have hospitals and better healthcare. That is all that the Kenyan people are asking for. We're not asking for blood, and we're not asking for violence. If you cannot give them that, I think just then, okay, just keep away, keep out of this whole conversation, and maybe don't lie to people, especially the politicians, and even to us, the young people who are following this conversation are also part of the campaigns. And right now, we are hanging around the politicians. Let's tell the politicians the truth. Let's also tell each other the truth that this is our country and we are here to protect it. Saitoti reminded us that a time comes in our lives when a country is more important than an individual. Yeah, people come and go, but Kenya will remain as it is. So we have to keep improving it. We have to keep making it better. Today is our time. Tomorrow is another person's time. So let's make sure that we are setting the right legacy behind. Thank you so much for joining us, Adonai, and everyone who's Ali from South Africa. Adonai joining us, said he's joining from the Horn of Africa. Josephine Flora and all those who managed to send in their comments. Francisca Majala, asante sana, wherever you are. Lennox, asante sana, joining us from Meru, right? Asante sana. Mukoko joining us from Kakamega. Bill joining us from Kiambu. In short, on the panel, we have 5 counties represented. Already the face of Kenya. Good night, everyone. See you again next week on Thursday. Mukoko, what are we having on Thursday next week? You're on mute?
Yeah, just before I say what we have on Thursday next week, just another round of gratitude to all panelists, including Francisca, who really made a lot of effort to be with us despite the network issues. But next Thursday, we are talking about a very interesting topic, the presidential debates. We have had the debates for deputy president candidates, and next time on Tuesday, I believe on the 26th, we'll be having debates on presidential debates, that is, and many Kenyans are looking forward to that and how that will influence their decision. So feel free to join us on that conversation. Reach out to me, reach out to Mr. Opondo. Let us know if you're interested, and we will certainly organize something and hear from young people on what they think about this topic. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, and on the same note, I think why we really got interested in that, Lennox and Bill, those still watching, is that we want to see, when we listen to those debates, the debates that happen on Tuesday, and even the ones that will happen on Tuesday, because our discussion will be on Thursday, we want to ask ourselves, are they talking about the things that need to be talked about, or are they talking about themselves? So please be very keen, pay attention to the debates, which will be happening on Tuesday next week. Wajakoya, Mr. Mwaura, Raila Odinga, and Ruto. Let's analyze the debates together on Thursday and see if we are heading the right direction. Thank you, Mukoko, and have a good night.
Yes, of course, hoping that nobody boycotts the debate on Tuesday.
Hopefully.
And we just get to hear the conversations and not many pardons, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.